Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. We're in the last chapter of the first book. And I'm looking at seasons. In the last two discussions, we had discussed the four faces of manhood. The manhood can't be just one-dimensional, but needs to be able to express itself appropriately given different situations. Now, those on the path to authentic manhood are not only aware of different situations in their life, but they're also aware of different seasons. Seasons: spring, summer, winter, and fall. So if you think of spring, right? Spring is age 0 to 20. And in the springtime, we're working on identity. Who are you? Who are you becoming? Who has God made you? Right now, you're transitioning from childhood to adulthood. And the key questions are, who am I and who am I not? Who am I not? And part of the danger is the adolescent area, as we all know. Kids will be kids, of course, but the bigger issue is when you become, say, your summer season between age 20 to 40 is getting lost and stuck in your adolescence. It's not an option for manhood, authentic manhood. 20s to 40s, you have to learn how to handle your sexual energy. In 1 Thessalonians, Bible tells us, for this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality, that each one of you know how to control his own body in holiness and honor, not in the passion of lust like the Gentiles who do not know God. Again, that's 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 3 to 5. So the major opportunity in your 20s is to learn, and learn. And so that brings out some questions for yourself, right? What do I want out of life? Where will I distinguish myself professionally? How am I different from my parents? What do I really believe? What skills do I need to develop? Around what person or conviction will I organize my life? And then the major opportunity in your 30s is growth. Growth personally, growth with your relationships, growth in your job. And then the key word to remember during your 30s is margin. Without margin, your relationships are compromised. Your marriage, your relationships with your kids. And so the key question for your 30s, along with margin being the key word, is prioritize. How do I prioritize the demands made on my life? Have I allowed enough time for a spiritual life and authentic relationships? And then that brings us to age 40 to 60. Now, the key word for that is influence. There can be a great harvest in this season. Everything that you've built up in your 20s, your 30s, and into your 40s, you can now start to see the fruit of your labor. So the key questions for this stage are, have I achieved everything I wanted? Do I have dreams that are unfulfilled? Can my mistakes be redeemed? And are my accomplishments fulfilling? Now, the major danger of this season is a midlife crisis. The great opportunity of this season can be summed up in one word: influence. This, unfortunately, is the season where you see a lot of guys. I won't say go off the deep end, but I will say go off the deep end. A lot of guys wind up getting that motorcycle that they wanted, wind up buying those things that they've always wanted, but put other things first. These are guys that sometimes I've seen a fair share of them get divorced during this time, thinking that it was their wife all along or their spouse or their kids that were holding them back. Not the fact that maybe it was themselves not making the certain choices to make that happen, or maybe God's will on their life was something different than what they thought. You know, the scriptures tell us that a man makes his goals, but God directs his paths. I can tell you I've had lots of setbacks in my life. I never thought I'd be where I am today. I always thought my career would take me forever. That didn't happen. Had an opportunity to sell, thought we were going to sell it for a decent amount of money to be able to not quite retire, but be a little more comfortable than what we are. But that didn't happen. And so I just had to look to God and say, okay, what now? What's next? What did you have for me? So basically, I'm going from my fall season all the way back to my summer season to learn and grow new things. And while I'm somewhat technically handy when we're talking new technology, some of the stuff that I'm learning now is just, it's taken me a long time to figure out. It just doesn't make sense to me. Some of it's really simple. It's like, oh, duh, I should have known that. But trying to build an online business or even a personal business after a pandemic is difficult. People don't like meetings still. People like being online. But the online space is so crowded that you've got to think about it and you've got to do some strategic moves to make it work. And for somebody who's so used to, you go out, you do something, you see the fruits of your labor, to now you're making these phone calls or you're on the computer and nothing seems to be happening, you just kind of sit there and wonder, God, what's going on? But I know it's something new that I had to learn. So now I'm going all the way back to my summer season. And I've got to go through summer. I've got to go through back into fall, to the beginning of fall, so I can start to harvest those communications, those things that had happened before the winter season hits. You know, David Levinson calls the men between 45 and 60 the dominant generation. Guys in this season create and implement the governing ideas in every sector of society, whether it's politics, business, religion, art, or science. Influence. And then we come to our winter stage. Our winter stage, age 60 and beyond. It's marked by wisdom, experience, and respect. The greatest danger of this season, by far, is for man to buy into the lie that he can no longer contribute. The major opportunities of this season is to take advantage of the flexibility that we have. You know, guys, if you're entering your winter season, that gives you such a leg up over the guys in the summer and fall season to be able to influence the younger generations, whether it be, you know, if you're 60, whether it be you're influencing something in their 40s and 50s, you could even go all the way back and influence guys in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. You've got time to make it work around their schedule while they're busting their hump, just making ends meet sometimes. You've got a little more flexibility to be able to help that out. You've got so much to contribute. And as long as God has us here on this earth, He wants us to work at it. He doesn't want us to just sit back and do nothing. I believe way back in the garden that God planned for us to work until we're done, until he calls us home, as much as we possibly can do. So with this actually closes out this particular book, but in concluding this book, the conclusion is, regardless of the season of life we're in, as men, we're called to create, cultivate, not just for a particular season, but our entire lives. We're called to follow the example of Jesus, live a life of truth, passion, and purpose. And as we journey towards authentic manhood, we're called to reject passivity, accept responsibility, lead courageously, and invest eternally. So a couple of questions that you've got to reflect on, we all have to reflect on, is how would you advise younger men who are about to enter your current or previous life stage? How would you advise younger men who are about to enter your current or previous life stage? Question number 2 is, how have you engaged older men in your life to help you guide on life journeys? How would you engage older men in your life who can help guide you on life's journey? And then this session, we discuss potential dangers for different seasons of life. What are the particular dangers you need to guard yourself against in your current season? Guys, this ends Authentic Manhood, the series, the first book. As a men's group, we're getting into the second book. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment, or for those of you who have my email, just reach out. I'll have it in the comments below. And I'm looking forward to moving with this. The podcast is going to go in a slightly different direction, but men's leadership is still at the top. So I look forward to talking to you again. Have a great day.